Hello and welcome to Tune Into Wellness Today. My name is Lisa Marie Tersini. I am the owner and founder of a company called Inspiring Wellness Solutions located in Saratoga Springs, New York. I'm also the founder and host of today's show, Tune Into Wellness Today. I am happy to tell you that I have two fabulous people that will be speaking to us today about healing and wellness through expressive art. And my first guest is Letitia Dayer of the Barnett Bassett House in Greenwich, New York. Letitia is an expressive art painter. She is a poet, a teacher, and a filmmaker. She's a fabulous woman. Welcome, Letitia.
Thank you so much, Lisa Marie. It is just a delight to be here.
I am so glad you are here. Thank you for arriving and being here and presenting yourself. How exciting. So today we're going to speak about expressive art and expressive art as a therapy and helping us to heal and be well. But before we do that, the Barnett Bassett House, love the name. Where did that derive from?
Oh, well, it was a natural. It had to be called that because the property is the Bassett House. It's a 1785 home that I restored 25 years ago. It was built right after the Revolutionary War on the Hudson River. So when we built a barn, what else to call it but the Barnett Bassett House on Hudson?
I love it. I have so much history in Greenwich and that Schuylerville area that your studio is located in. And the Barnett Bassett House is an art studio as well as a community art location.
Right.
Is that
That's
correct?
Right. That's right.
Speak to me a little bit about the community and how they can participate there.
Well, the reason it became a community art space is because my husband and I separated, and I turned it into a community art space as a way of generating income so I could stay at the property because it is a most beautiful, magical place right on the Hudson River.
Yes.
And the studio overlooks the water, so it's right on the water, and it's a very restful, inspiring place to be. And so I make the space available for people to rent. It's been used for memorial services, for graduation parties, for a wedding has taken place there. People have used it for improv theater performances, musical performances, community events, drumming, workshops, teaching. So it's a nice place where people can sit in a circle inside. You can use the grounds outside. We've done universal dances of peace outside. And we've also used it for locations for the film that Roger and I are making, Life on the Run.
Beautiful. I find the river, I've lived on the river for a good portion of the last handful of years, and it is incredibly healing for me. Water is very healing for me.
Indeed.
So that is beautiful. Today I'd like to speak a little bit about becoming in touch with your creative side after you've lost it. And where I'm going with that is, when we are young children, we tend to finger paint and we color, we have markers, and somewhere in that growing up process, we often, the general we, lose some creativity and we start living in a world of what we think is right, the rights and the wrongs. And what you are doing is you're helping people be in tune with that creative side that they certainly have. So speak to me a little bit about how you do that.
It is such a joy when I'm in the space of making that creativity a space of possibility for others, because it's so common for people to say, oh, I'm not creative. I don't know how to paint, I don't know how to draw, I can't even draw a stick figure. And all you have to do is remember what it was like when you were 3, or just watch any child, because all children are artists. But as Picasso said, the challenge is remaining a child when we become adults. And so it's just a matter of allowing yourself to be playful and not to judge. Where we begin to lose that is when, say around the age of 6 or 7, we start going to school, and instead of doing painting and drawing and crayons or playing in the mud, for the fun of it and for the joy of it, it's got to look a certain way. Did mommy like it? Am I going to get a good grade? It's all about the judging mind, and that begins to shut us down. And as judging, discerning adults, we don't want to do things that make us feel uncomfortable or unsure. We want to stay where it's safe. And creativity is about letting go of all that judgment and just be in a space of enjoyment, joy, playfulness. Playfulness for me is the key.
That critical voice. I mean, they're hearing that critical voice.
Right. We all have it.
Not good enough. It's something we all have to work through. I think, and to different extents we do that. So you have had a healing experience within the last sevevel years. You were diagnosed with breast cancer.
I was.
If you would share with all of us how it is that your expressive art, creativity, love of the arts, and your passion helped you heal from breast cancer?
Really, I felt so blessed that I had my painting and my poetry, and it became an integral part of my healing. On the eve of my diagnosis, it was a pretty good chance. I knew there was a pretty good likelihood that I did have cancer, but I didn't have a diagnosis yet. But I had seen those spots on the ultrasound. And I went into the studio that night in a very upset place. I had scheduled an appointment that I missed the appointment, and I was so ready to talk to the doctor, and then I had to wait till the next day. So all that upset with myself and upset about, am I gonna die? And so I painted that night, and what I painted was my fear, my uncertainty, my terror. And I put dark spots at the top of the painting, and then I took an atomizer, went psh, 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 and then it got really runny, and all the paint of the dark started going down through the gold. And as it was dribbling down through the scratches that I made, it was like the tears paralleling on me.
Right.
So the integration of me with the painting, because it's not about painting something that looks a certain way, it's not about creating something that I'm trying to make it look like something I want it to be beautiful. It's just painting what comes forward, allowing the emotion that's in me. Sometimes it's joyous, sometimes it's full of terror. And so there's an authenticity that comes through work when you work that way. And a few months later, I painted another painting in the studio that looked remarkably like the first one. And I couldn't understand, like, how can they be so similar? Because now I know I'm going to live. I've already had surgery. I'm getting treatment now. I know I'm going to be fine. They found it very early. How can they be so similar? And I came to understand that there was gold in both of these paintings, and I realized that the river of gold is always in me, because it's in my faith in the divine. It's my wisdom that I've honed over the decades of my life. It's the work that I've done on my own development, and also through the amazing people in my life, particularly the amazing people that saved my life, the doctors, the many people. And I made a point of taking these two paintings and turning them into a giclée, and I gave this as a gift to my OBGYN, to the anesthesiology team, to the surgical team.
Beautiful.
And I went to each of them. So that's just an example of how I shared with the community of people that have impacted my life.
How did you feel the evening before you were diagnosed, for sure, and you painted this painting? After the painting was complete, do you recall a sensation or a feeling?
I was in a community of artists, because I love to paint in a group studio. It's called an atelier, and everybody's in their own space, but you're together, so you have each other's energy, but it's not about. There's no critique at the end. We maybe walk about and experience each other's work, but it's not about any judging or, you really should have done it this way, or why didn't you use that color. So people were very patient with the fact that I was very upset and weeping through the whole evening. They held the space for me to allow that. And at the end of the evening, I remember doing the walkabout, and I just felt so supported by this community of artists that not artists, some people are not artists at all, like real estate agents or, people that are teachers, but it's just allowing yourself to work with the paint and in this state of playfulness. And I remember feeling just this release, and whatever's going to come, it's going to come. I need to just be with it, accept it, embrace it, even if it's not what I want. But I know that I can only heal if I can be with what is.
When you're speaking about accepting it, are you speaking also about what I call the law of non-resistance? Have you let go now of resisting, in your case, cancer, breast cancer, and in doing so, how did that help you?
Well, I've always been someone who really looks at how I can learn, how I can find the treasure in everything. And I've come to understand that this cancer, like all things that come to me in my life, was actually a gift. And how can cancer be a gift? But it has given me insight and given me an understanding and access to new things that I never would have discovered had I not received it. And that can't happen unless I can just be with what is. And Carl Jung is an extraordinary teacher for me, and I've studied his works for years. And that was one of the principles of non-resistance. Wisdom comes when we can just be with what is. Otherwise, we can't get anywhere. If we spend all our lives just complaining and bemoaning this or that, and only looking for happy times, because it's through those challenges that we grow.
Absolutely.
So I'm feeling full of gratitude, actually.
Great. Right, well, you look wonderful.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
let's tell me how other people, by working with you or on their own, will find or can find some healing through the works that they do. And then I'd love to see some of your artwork.
Yeah,
okay?
thank you. Well, I have this that I brought. I don't know whether the camera can see this. Let's see, how shall I do this? Maybe put it on my lap like this?
Sure.
Or put it here?
Why don't you put it right up here?
Okay, let's do that. So we'll just pick this up and very quickly move it over here. So this is items from a potpourri that's in my home. And my partner Roger and I did this lovely exercise where we pulled a few items out of the potpourri, and silently to ourselves we chose which one we really relate to. And both of us chose, now this is a few months ago, so I'm not sure I remember. Yeah, I actually don't remember, even though I wrote about it extensively at the time. But the point is that we both ended up choosing the same one that we really felt a kinship with. And then we each wrote, not sharing it yet, what we felt about it and why we were attracted to it. And we also wrote about the ones that we didn't choose and how we felt about that. And then when we compared notes, it gave us a wonderful bridge for talking about what our feelings are about these things, and thereby what we have in common. And it gave us access to discovering things about each other that maybe we wouldn't have never talked about had it not been for, like, this is one I remembered that we didn't like because it's all gnarled, and both of us said no, we're not interested in that one.
Not free flowing.
Yeah, I think the one that we really liked was this one. This is it's a shell for some kind of a nut, and the way it's open like a flower, is very appealing to both of us. And so you can do this in community. You can do it with one other person. You can do it by yourself.
So healing relationships as well. In a healing or deepening a bond in a relationship, so we can use art in that fashion as well. It's really beautiful. Let's see a few of your pieces of art, if you would, show the audience.
Well, let me show you this one first. This is, I have a blog that I started right after I got cancer. And so this is a card that I give to people to let them know that I have a blog. The address for the blog, Letitia Healing on Hudson, is the name of the blog. And this is a painting that I painted when Roger's best friend passed away from brain cancer. And then I wrote this poem on the back. Whenever I paint, I always write something. So I ask the painting to tell me what it wants when I'm painting it. And then when I'm done, I sit down and I say, okay, now tell me what you have to say. And I basically take dictation. And that's where most of my poetry comes from. And so I'll read you just a couple of little elements from this. It starts out, it's called Shimmering in the Light. I'll hold it up so you can see it. We beg for more. Will we get it? More time, more light, more blooming life. We shoot up so fast, not noticing we've grown tall. Never occurs to us we could wither, fall. And then there's a few more stanzas, and it ends with, moving through one morass or another, let us believe all is well, till it's not, or other.
It's beautiful.
So there's a divine energy that is in all of us and around all of us, and that's what comes through this work. Roger and I recently had a show called Shards of Memory, and this is a book from the show. It's basically a catalog of the show, and it has images and poetry. So the poetry overlaps each of the paintings. His work is more photographic. Let me turn to one. This would be an interesting one to show.
That is lovely. I love that, the way the words overlap the paint.
Yeah, it was such a joy to put this book together.
Right.
This is one that was painted, my friends lost their home in a fire. And this is the painting that I did in honor of them and their loss. And working with Yaakov Nor, who is a psychodrama teacher from Israel, I did a workshop with him around the same time at the Expressive Art Studio in Albany. And his mantra really inspired me, so I incorporated it into this, which is called Now That My House Is Burned. And now that the very last line of the poem is, now that my house has burned, I have a better view of the moon. So even tragedies, you can turn into something positive. So as you can see, there's the moon, and there's it was terrible when that happened.
It is a choice. It is a choice to take tragedy and to survive from it and to move forward with wisdom out of it, and then to bring forth that wisdom to the world. That is a choice.
That's a beautiful way to describe that.
Thank you.
I painted this painting right after a very dear friend of mine passed away. She had a fused spine, and she had a lot of health issues.
I was going to ask you. I said that looks like a spine.
But when I painted this, it was the first painting I painted after her tragic death from a car accident. I didn't deliberately paint her, and I wasn't deliberately thinking about her. But when I sat down to write the words, I realized I had painted her. And she loved to dance, even though she couldn't move very well. But you can see the tribal dancing in here. And she loved bright colors. And in the poem I wrote, I said, though you were not swift, you taught us how to fly. Though the fixtures made you rigid, you could still soften, cry. Through your pain, you could not, though your pain could knock you over, you did not dissolve into anger or fright. And she taught us how to dance. And one more in here I'd like to share with you is, this is one of the most unusual paintings. I did this in this studio, again in a group studio, and this very diaphanous figure came forth, and a number of people said to me, you know, that looks a lot like Roger. Has his presence, you know, this very gentle, giant, white diaphanous figure tending the flowers in the garden. Oddly enough, though, I painted this 2 years before I met Roger. So I had to redo the poem, and I changed it from reaching to reaching Roger.
Wonderful.
So,
give me, Letitia, as we wrap up, two benefits that you have seen through either your own healing or those that you've worked with in expressive arts, two benefits that they will receive when they learn to let that creative process flow. Can you give me two?
Sure. As with my cancer, I realized that the pain and challenge and the anxiety that comes from that kind of bad news becomes a portal to access beauty and joy. And through the arts you can do that. Sometimes words are not sufficient. Sometimes we don't have the words. And particularly with people who are not verbally oriented. We live in a very visual society. And also for children who can't express, don't have the words for it. So using visual art can give you access to deal with your sorrow and deal with your pain, and it becomes a portal for healing. And then also the idea that if we can stop resisting life, and one really wonderful way to do that is through the arts. To just stop, take the time, grow quiet, and allow what's already there within us to come to the surface. And whether it's good news, bad news, it's all a gift. And when we move so fast through life that we're always one step ahead of where we actually are, we don't really have the opportunity to be in the moment. And I always say, don't miss the moment. Be here now.
It's really all we have, actually, isn't it?
Yes.
Is that moment.
And why do we forget about that? We're always on to the next thing or worrying about what just happened.
A lot of that's cultural to the United States, too. Well, thank you so much. This has been very enlightening and inspiring, and thank you for being here.
It is such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. If you would like more information about Letitia and the work she does, you can go to her Facebook page, which is...
My Facebook page for me is by my name, but I also have the Barn at Bassett House on Hudson on Facebook, which has an album with my photos. And then there's also my website, letitiafineart.com.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you
very
Lisa
much.
Marie.
And my second guest today is Roger Wyatt from the Barn at Bassett House Digital Media. Roger is a filmmaker and has been for 46 years. He has done some wonderful things like producing 3 operas. He has worked at press conferences for the Beatles, for Steve Jobs, for the Rolling Stones. He also spent a month in Ireland filming a Buddhist monastery, and he has so many other accomplishments. Currently, he's working on a film called Life on the Run. Welcome, Roger.
Oh, thank you, Lisa Marie.
Thank you
Good
for
to be
being
here.
here.
Yes.
You have so many accomplishments over the years, extremely impressive. I want to hear a little bit today about Life on the Run, and
Sure.
I understand that Life on the Run has to do with taking off from what Letitia was speaking
Yes.
about art and the healing and wellness aspects of art. So please tell us a little bit about that film and what you're trying to achieve.
Sure. I don't know, several years ago, maybe 10 years ago, this idea popped into my head, a question, really. And the question was, why do art? I grew up in an artistic family. My father was an artist and a teacher. My brother is a sculptor. So growing up, I was surrounded by artists and all sorts of media. And throughout my life, if you're going to be a filmmaker, almost by definition, you're involved with artists, on the production end, doing titles, graphics, whatever. They're always there. Music, all of that stuff. And I was thinking, here we're rolling into the holiday season, and I thought, all over the country there are choruses right now that are practicing Handel's Messiah. And whatever else they're going to do. And how many people, I just did a thought experiment, how many people are in those choruses? It could be 10, it could be 30, it could be 50. And how many rehearsals do you think they have? And I have no idea, but I made up a number, 5, and then I just started doing the multiplication with that, and you do that, and even if you way undercount and say, oh, there are 10,000 choruses across the United States that are doing this, you get to an astronomical number in a hurry. Why do art came out of that, and I have found that good questions are necessary for good answers. And I've also found that the simpler the question, the better it is, less moving parts, in that. So that's where I started. And I have a documentary film background. I produced the documentation of the restoration of the Statue of Liberty was a project, and and as you had mentioned, the Buddhist monastery, in Ireland, and. So I thought, well, this really needs a fictional approach because there are so many stories that I've heard over the years, and I started thinking, what is it about art? Art makes you cool. Art makes you poor. Art makes you sexy. Art. Benita Zahn actually had the last one, which is art makes you. And art makes you. That was a powerful insight she shared with me. And so I started from there, and I started thinking, well, there's the creative kids and their parents that can go in 2 directions. And I started collecting stories. I remember Letitia and I were leaving out of SPAC, and she was going to get the car, and I was staying with our stuff, and I struck up a conversation with a woman who was doing something similar, waiting there. Turned out, we were about a similar age, and she had spent, because her parents didn't want her to be an artist, she became a nurse instead. And after they died, she became the interior designer she was always meant to be. And I would start to hear that story again and again. Somebody whose family forced their son into dentistry. He became the worst dentist in his class because he wanted to be a writer. And I thought, what about those people? Those are powerful stories. And but on the other hand, parents can be incredibly uplifting and taking you through and So
when someone
Yes.
when someone watches your film,
Yes.
upon watching that
Yes.
film, what do you hope that they will take away from that?
I hope they will take away to be self-expressed, to be creative is something that's inherent in all of us, at whatever level. For young people, I think it's an important thing because the era of lifelong employment is over. The kids that are graduating today are going to be jumping from lily pad to lily pad for their career. And I can think of no better preparation than the arts to think creatively about your life.
Beautiful.
You know.
Beautiful idea. I love that thought process.
Yeah. So if you want to talk about how are the arts vocational, there's your answer right there. You know.
Magnificent.
Yeah.
I never thought about that. What conversation should cinema have, or could cinema have, about wellness?
Yeah. Woodrow Wilson, when he was president of the United States, must have been one of the earliest screenings of a film in the White House. It was The Birth of a Nation. And when the lights came up at the end of it, he said, "My God, this is history writ with lightning." History writ with lightning. And I think that speaks to the power of this modern medium, you know, and so peculiarly an American medium, you know. The French and the Americans are my favorite, you know, with that, you know, and in film. You know, so that conversation between about wellness via cinema brings the power, the empathy, the visualization, you know, the imagery, that old cliche, a picture, you know, speaks a thousand words, you know,
yes.
But cliches are cliches because they're also true, you know.
That is so true.
You know, but it also brings along you know, there's a soundtrack, so there's the eloquence of the spoken word, you know, and between the two, you can build a bridge to understanding between the viewer and those who are making that, you know, and I think there is compressed power within the messaging that comes out of that, you know. So
when
that's
you wrap up this film, and I
Yes.
understand you're becoming close to it
Yeah, closer.
now.
Yes.
When you wrap it up, you hope to be teaching some workshops.
That's true.
And
Yes.
what workshops do you want to teach?
I have always enjoyed teaching film, and whether it's been to junior high students or even younger, or graduate students in professional programs, I find it's all the same. It doesn't matter whether you're 8, 28, 68. You know, you all start at the beginning and go, you know, forward through the process the same, and that fascinates me. I took a very, I think, unusual approach to making this film. I call it emergent technology, emergent cinema, and emerging, you know, coming out of complexity and chaos theory, the notion of emergence, sensitivity to initial conditions. And the idea of that is, I flattened the hierarchy, you know, organizationally within films. You know, certainly as the director and the filmmaker, it's my film, but I collaborated deeply with everyone on the set, in front of the camera or behind the camera, because from where you stand determines what you see. You stand in a different place, you're going to see a different thing. And I can't tell you how many wonderful ideas have emerged out of doing that, rather than that kind of cliche of the director and, you know, I'll hear this, you know, kind of thing, you know. Right. And there is often a hierarchical vibe to a film production set. I use film and video and digital all interchangeably, what I'm saying with that. And, you know, and the notion of a choreographic dance between the camera and the actors of the action, or the sunset, or whatever it may be, in there. I think actually for a filmmaker, dance is a superb preparation, you know, because where are you in space? You know?
When do you anticipate the film will be ready and ready for all of us to see?
Sure. I am hoping I can hit a mid-2016 deadline for it.
Wonderful.
You know, we have a screening date at Florida State University in Tallahassee. So there's nothing like a deadline to kind of get your attention. Now, of course, we can move that somewhat, with there, but that's what I'm focusing on.
Fabulous. I love the work you and Letitia are doing.
Oh, thank you.
Not only to bring people into their creativity, to teach them that it's okay to be creative,
Yes.
but to help them understand that there's a healing and wellness aspect to being authentic and true to yourself and letting that authenticity come out. Whatever form of creativity
Yes.
speaks to them.
Yes.
It's beautiful. Roger, I do really appreciate all you do, and I thank you so much for being here. If you would like more information on Roger and the work he does, go onto his Facebook page, which is Life on the Run Film. Thank you. Thank you, Roger.
Thank you.
My question to all of you today is, what are you doing to be well? Are you still living in an unhealthy space, unhealthy relationships, unhealthy weight, unhealthy attitudes? Are you feeling ill? Do you still have diagnoses that need to be treated? If so, and you're looking to be healthy, sustainably healthy, call me, Lisa Marie, 518-292-8767. I'll see what I can do for you, and if I cannot help you, I'll certainly refer you out to someone that can. Do not wait. Now's the time. Thank you for watching our show. I do hope you found Letitia and Roger to be informative and inspirational. Until next time, be happy, be healthy, and be alive.